The stars above the desolate moon of Krylos 9 burned cold and distant, casting faint light over the jagged terrain. Zanara, a warrior of the Krylosian dominion, moved silently through the shadows, her violet eyes scanning the darkness. Her mission was clear: eliminate the human intruder who had trespassed on her people's territory. The Dominion had declared him a threat, and Zanara was their best assassin. She adjusted the grip on her plasma blade, its hum barely audible. Her sleek, silver armor clung to her lithe frame, designed for both protection and stealth. Her species, the Krylosians, were known for their agility and heightened senses, making her the perfect predator. But this human, this man, had evaded her for days. He was cunning, resourceful, and dangerous. Zanara paused, her ears catching the faintest rustle of movement. Her lips curled into a smirk. "Got you." She crept closer, her breath steady, her heart rate controlled. The human was near. She could smell him, a strange, earthy scent mixed with something metallic. It was unfamiliar, almost intoxicating. She shook her head, refocusing. Emotions had no place in her mission. The human emerged from the shadows, his figure tall and broad-shouldered. He wore a rugged exosuit, its surface scarred from countless battles. His face was obscured by a helmet, but she could feel his gaze piercing through the visor. He carried a rifle, but it was slung over his shoulder, as if he didn't expect an attack. Zanara struck without warning, her plasma blade slicing through the air. The human dodged with surprising speed, his movements fluid and precise. He countered with a punch, his armored fist grazing her side. She hissed in pain but didn't falter. They clashed again, their weapons sparking as they collided. The fight was intense, each combatant testing the other's limits. Zanara was faster, but the human was stronger. He used his environment to his advantage, forcing her into narrow spaces where her agility was hindered. She realized too late that she had underestimated him. With a swift maneuver, he disarmed her, sending her plasma blade skittering across the ground. Before she could react, he pinned her against a rock, his body pressing against hers. She struggled, but his grip was unyielding. "You're good," he said, his voice deep and calm. "But not good enough." Zanara glared at him, her chest heaving. "Kill me, then," she spat. "That's what you humans do, isn't it?" The human tilted his head, studying her. "Not always." Before she could respond, he released her and stepped back. Zanara stared at him, confused. "What are you doing?" "Leaving," he said simply. "You're not my enemy." She watched as he turned and walked away, his figure disappearing into the darkness. For the first time in her life, Zanara felt something other than hatred for a human. It was a feeling she couldn't name, but it unsettled her deeply. Zanara didn't understand why she followed him. She told herself it was to complete her mission, but deep down, she knew it was more than that. The human intrigued her. He was unlike any she had encountered before, strong, yes, but also, compassionate. It was a contradiction she couldn't reconcile. She tracked him to a small cave hidden deep within the moon's rocky terrain. Inside, he had set up a makeshift camp. A fire burned low, casting flickering shadows on the walls. He had removed his helmet, revealing a rugged face with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. His dark hair was tousled, and a faint stubble covered his jaw. Zanara hesitated at the entrance, unsure of her next move. Before she could decide, he spoke without looking up. "You can come in, you know. I don't bite." She stepped inside, her hand resting on the hilt of a dagger at her side. "Why did you spare me?" she demanded. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Because you're not my enemy. You're just following orders." "And you're not?" she countered. He shrugged. "I have my own reasons for being here. But killing you wasn't one of them." Zanara frowned, her mind racing. She didn't trust him, but she couldn't deny the curiosity gnawing at her. "What is your name, human?" "Kale," he said. "And you?" "Zanara." He nodded, as if filing the information away. "Well, Zanara, if you're not here to kill me, why don't you sit down? You look like you could use a rest." She hesitated but eventually sat across from him, her eyes never leaving his. The fire crackled between them, its warmth a stark contrast to the cold tension in the air. "Why are you here?" she asked after a long silence. Kale sighed, leaning back against the cave wall. "I'm looking for something. Something your people took from mine." Zanara's eyes narrowed. "What?" "A device," he said. "It's called the ether core. It's dangerous in the wrong hands." She had heard of the ether core, a powerful energy source capable of unimaginable destruction. The Dominion had seized it months ago, claiming it as their own. "And you think you can just take it?" she asked, her tone mocking. Kale smirked. "I don't plan on asking nicely." Zanara studied him, her mind racing. If what he said was true, then the Dominion's leaders were playing a dangerous game. She had always been loyal, but now, doubts crept in. "What if I helped you?" she said suddenly. Kale raised an eyebrow. "Why would you do that?" "Because," she said, her voice firm, "I don't want to see my people destroyed by their own greed." Kale regarded her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. But know this, if you betray me, I won't hesitate to kill you." Zanara met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. "Understood." Their journey to the Dominion stronghold was fraught with danger. The moon's surface was treacherous, and they were pursued by Krylosian patrols. But as they fought side by side, Zanara began to see Kale in a new light. He was brave, resourceful, and surprisingly kind. He treated her as an equal, something she had never experienced before. One night, as they camped beneath the stars, Zanara found herself opening up to him. She told him about her life as a warrior, the expectations placed on her, and the loneliness that came with it. Kale listened without judgment, his presence a comforting anchor. "You're not so different from me," he said softly. "We're both just trying to do what we think is right." Zanara looked at him, her heart pounding. "And what if what's right isn't what we've been told?" Kale reached out, his hand brushing hers. "Then we find our own path." The touch sent a shiver through her, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel something other than duty. She leaned closer, her breath catching as their lips met. The kiss was tentative at first, but soon deepened, fueled by the intensity of their shared experiences. When they finally pulled apart, Zanara felt a warmth spreading through her chest. It was a feeling she had never known, a connection that went beyond words. Their newfound bond was tested when they reached the Dominion's stronghold. Zanara's former comrades turned on her, branding her a traitor. Kale fought valiantly to protect her, but they were outnumbered. In the chaos, Zanara was captured and brought before the Dominion's leader, a ruthless warlord named Vriker. He sneered at her, his voice dripping with contempt. "You have disgraced us, Zanara. But perhaps you can still be of use." Kale, however, refused to abandon her. He infiltrated the stronghold, risking everything to save her. When he finally reached her, she was battered but alive. "I told you I wouldn't let you down," he said, his voice filled with determination. Together, they fought their way out, their bond stronger than ever. With the ether core secured, Kale and Zanara left Krylos 9 behind. They knew their journey was far from over, but for the first time, they faced the future together. As their ship soared through the stars, Zanara looked at Kale, a smile playing on her lips. "What now?" she asked. Kale took her hand, his eyes filled with promise. "Now, we find our own path." And with that, they set off into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together.